presented itself, let's get closer to us, let's say it was in Empire or Dumont, kind of thing, right in that area. And we had come to the point where these are the parameters of which we feel comfortable participating, whatever they are, in any project, these are the parameters, and this one fit, you need to check off all the boxes. We could balls out, say, sure, we're gonna support this one, we'll join for this particular, authority, agreement, grant, we'll band together, because they're not gonna be running multiple ones. God, that's a perfect world, so.
Mary, really fast, Mary Sims. Where, are we seeing any improvement in lobbying tax collection?
No, actually, we clean and decrease.
Excellent.
It says with a note of sarcasm in her voice.
I've never.
But
Yes, seriously, with some pretty large issues. And I would be happy to meet with you if you want to go over that.
I would,
Okay.
I have to get through this other thing and then, yeah, I'll.
so we're setting these aside, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna get with our workforce. Are we having a try?
Yeah, he's on.
Okay. I have two possible add-ons to the agenda. Okay, start.
All right,
However you want to do it.
we got 2 minutes.
So I think we need to add something on here about hopefully changing the asking from marshal to police chief, because we don't really have a decent marshal position anymore yet.
Well, I had spoken with Rick and Rick was gonna talk to Jerry and find out whether
Yeah, I heard that, and he said we don't need to.
we don't need them.
He said that when the past ordinance, and in fact, he's online.
Yeah.
Okay, as long as we're addressing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so it's kind of mucks things up, I just think we should make mention of our, committee meeting that we had. Just trying to.
Understand, I don't
Yeah.
ask about it. Cool,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanna read.
Did you?
Yes, I did, yeah, and maybe we can talk about that later or something.
Yeah. Okay.
After, yeah, I just didn't wanna have the gas hanging in a,
Right,
limbo title, I'm trying to make sure it was solid as to
we're on it.
our recognition. Okay.
All right. Okay.
So she maybe change something. I know that. Not the title, sorry, the other one. The committee. Do we need to make some changes to the? Policy?
Yes,
Okay. Short answer.
yeah, that's what I'm kind of like, I don't know how much update I should give, because
Okay,
I feel like we need another discussion.
let's talk.
As a group.
Okay,
Yeah, but stay after, can we stay after school today?
We are already.
okay. I think it is.
Before I start, we-
It is 6:01, so I'm gonna go ahead. Are we ready?
Oh, take your pledge.
Okay, well, let me make the announcement. So I'm calling this meeting of the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen of the town of Georgetown to order. It is Tuesday, July 9th, 2024, and it is 6:01 PM. And let's go ahead and start with the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call is next. I am Lynette Kelsey, police judge. Rob Connell.
Here.
Amanda Cooper.
Here.
John Jennings is not here tonight. Dwayne Gazinski.
Here.
Mary Smith. Here. Rich Barrows.
Here.
Okay, we do have a quorum. So. Next, we have agenda approval. I wanted to add just a statement that Mark Reynolds asked me to make at just the barbecue kickoff on the 4th of July, but when the microphone didn't work, hardly anybody heard me, so I wanted to read that into the record tonight. So we'll add that. We are also deleting agenda item number 6, which is reso number 9, because we are not ready to discuss and pass it. So, and
Yeah, items.
we are adding a staff item, an update on the meeting that the policy review and admin policy review committee made. Yeah, that's what,
Apricot, right.
that's Cindy's.
I know, but now I can't get it up.
Okay. Okay, those 3 additions to our agenda. Anybody have anything else? Okay,
Make a motion to approve the agenda as amended, July 9th, 2024. That's like.
it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Was unanimous. Okay, audience business. Members of the audience have 5 minutes to present any matter of interest related to the town, to the business of the town that is not already on the agenda. Is anybody here for audience business? Okay, and nobody online? All right, seeing none, we will move on. Next, we will have the payables, and those are dated June 21st through July 3rd, 2024. Any questions on the payables?
Whose liquor license application got refunded?
Family Dollar.
And.
Wait. Go ahead, no, go ahead.
On page 2, the 4th line under police department equipment. We've got 6,300 for the block.
Is that the
Is
license?
that who we're,
That's the license
Yeah.
fee for
is
yours.
that gonna take a down payment or?
Yes, ma'am, that's 6,300 for the system. And it'll be 6,000 a year, which will come later, but the 6,300 covers everything. The cameras, the hookup.
Okay. Did they like give us a buy one, get one free or?
They were pretty reasonable.
They were really
Yeah.
expensive.
Okay,
They're really reasonable and I think they're used by more agencies in the state than any
no,
other.
that's fine, I just
yeah.
expected it to be more, so.
Others would have been with less, if you know,
Okay.
less
Okay,
practicality.
I just remembered $1 to it, so, thank you.
Does anybody have anything else? I'll make a motion to approve the payables dated 6/21 to 7/4/2024.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the payables as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And next we have the minutes of our last meeting, which was on June 25th, 2024. And I already gave a couple corrections to Jennifer, and she sent that out by email.
I think they're going through,
Okay,
just a clarification of rules,
of which,
That's on page 3, is it 3?
I don't know.
Yeah, page 3, top, Selectman Smith would like Gaskins to, instead of record the calls he receives, she wants it to say report to Jeff on 911.
to me, record sounded like, recording the phone, you know, like.
Okay.
Wiretap.
Okay.
And,
Yeah, no, and that's not what the, yeah.
Try not to say wiretap. I can imagine that probably
Not
got some red flags. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended, for June 25th, 2024.
Hey, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as amended. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That also passes. So before we launch into our action items, I did want to read this, that was requested by, Mark Reynolds. So, he requested this. Each year, we thank all the volunteers who helped to put on this great barbecue. That was for the 4th of July. This year, we would particularly like to recognize the 25 years of volunteer service of Hugh Anderson, a member of the Nigel and Anderson family, who is no longer with us. I'm not sure the meat will taste the same without Hugh's fine touch. Mark also wants to mention, past pit bosses who were of note, not only Hugh Anderson, but Scott Ennis, Don Weber, Doc Bailey, and John Kruger. So, and just kudos to staff, all staff that made that 4th of July such a success. It was wonderful. Appreciate all of you. So, moving on, first thing on our action items agenda is our police reports.
well. I'm gonna fall right here though.
Don't do that.
Nothing noteworthy to report in terms of, any incidents, cases, things of that nature. That's why it's only one way. The next is the Jeff issues that were discussed the last board meeting. And there's very little can be done. It's just the bottom line to it. There are, and I'll start with, there are 36 911 lines to up to 20 employees. They're short staffed like everyone else. So when you have 36 lines and you have, say, 15 employees, 911 is going to be on hold. It will eventually roll over to Denver, but we don't communicate directly with Denver. I'm not on MetroNet in my vehicle, and I don't have any of the Denver channels. So it has to go back through JeffCom to get dispatched to us. So there may be a lapse in how long it takes somebody to get through 911 and then dispatch to us. It happened up here as well. 2 dispatchers, a lot of times they only have 1 dispatcher. And during inclement weather, things of that nature, they were flooded with 911 calls during accidents. And it was too much for the 1 dispatcher to handle efficiently. So it's gonna happen. We seem to be also getting the new employees down there. So they are learning at our expense. And which I don't know if I blame them because, you know, we're not Jefferson County, we're not Westminster, we're not any of those really busy agencies that are, you know, where they have a chance to learn from us because it's not constantly busy, but still, there's gonna be hiccups with that as well. What they are gonna do is they're gonna split EMS and fire. So normally, if we have an incident where we have EMS, fire, and law enforcement, 1 dispatcher handle all that, so I'm switching from to FD channel, maybe FD1, maybe FD2. I'm doing B fire if I'm talking to the helicopter, and I'm switching back to LE3 if I'm LE1 if I'm talking to dispatch on the law enforcement side of things. They're going to split that with mountain fire. So that takes EMS and fire, puts it with mountain fire, and we don't have to switch channels. I'll still have to go to a B fire channel, marine channel if I'm going to speak with the aircraft, but I won't have to switch channels when it comes to major incidents. That's gonna help a lot. That will alleviate a lot of issues. And that is that's the good news out of all of this. So, at this point in time, it's what it is. And so we just have to muddle through. And you know, we get through. It just sometimes it takes a little bit, it's a little frustrating at times, but still. Um. Ms. Hill has been continuing her education to improve her knowledge, skills, and abilities as an administrative assistant. She has become the CCIC coordinator. She's been certified in that. She's taken some other certification tests. We are now independent of the sheriff's office. So as the CCIC coordinator, I don't have to go to the sheriff's office when I need something or I need to make changes in the CCIC portal. She can do all that stuff. Which is good news. And she's continuing, her training in the realm of CCIC and CIC. And she's got some upcoming classes she's gonna attend. So, she's moving forward with that. Next, yeah, 4th of July, no issue, 4th of July, I'll just say that. It ran pretty smooth. This was the first year I did not have a vehicle coming onto the parade route in the midst of everybody milling around, walking and getting ready for the parade. That always scared me. Vehicles and pedestrians, and that number never went together. So the first year that didn't happen, I had rangers, I had 6 rangers, I had the rangers stationed at these points where somebody could have moved a barricade and come onto the parade route. I had them stationed at a couple of traffic control points, and I had 2 rangers stationed in the park. And then I had a reserve officer who handled also traffic control in various locations, so he was roaming around dealing with that. So everything worked smooth. I had enough resources to handle anything and everything, and so it was a good year.
Good job.
Well done.
Nice
Yes,
job.
thank you.
All right, and finally, you on the back of your, back of this staff report, there is graphical data of call volume. This happens to be for the month of June. So you can see how many traffic incidents, citizen assist, paramedical, motor vehicle assistant, verified alarms that we had. And so each month we get this report, and it tallies everything. In fact, there's if you want the whole 37-page report, it goes over all of the agencies. If you want to kind of compare, but Georgetown doesn't really compare in call volume as anyone else. So which is good. We need a slow period. So do you guys have any questions on this data?
This is just for Mayo. Up till June, right?
Up to June.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's delayed.
What each are you like, emergent, call, was it
It's
a?
not priority 3, so priority 1, 2, and 3. I don't know, like an in-progress call, obviously priority 1.
Okay,
Traffic accident with injuries would be like priority 2. A call or alarm, a verified alarm might be a P3.
zero.
Got it.
Shots,
We didn't have any.
shots fired. at the
Yeah,
police
no,
department.
priority 0, that is no priority at all for that call. I don't know.
Okay.
So anyway,
John, I have a question,
Yeah.
just for you to clarify to the board. When a resident calls you, does that call reflect on this list?
yeah, so as I explained in a meeting not too long ago, if somebody calls me and I deem it necessary to go out, so they might call me and say, hey, I got this vehicle, it's strange, it's driving in the neighborhood, what's it doing? Is it doing anything weird? I was just driving. Okay, well, I may not come out at 11 o'clock for that, if that's all you have, but if they call and say, hey, and they called not too long ago, somebody called and said, hey, there's a vehicle driving with no lights through the neighborhood. Okay, that's worthy of my attention. So I go out and I call dispatch on the radio and say, hey, I've got a suspicious vehicle, it's in this location, I'm in route. It goes on the board, and then it reflects in this report. If it's somebody having a heart attack, they are not calling me. They're not looking through their phone for my number to call me, they're calling 911. So, that's the difference, that's, when people have your number. It's something that you might call and say, is this anything to this, should I be calling dispatch or and I'll give them my input. And if it's something worthy, I'll go out and I'll radio that I'm in service, in route for whatever reason, and it gets recorded, so there's no, it's full circle.
So the calls that you respond on GEFCON is reflecting in this report?
Yes, ma'am. Every call that we have, whether it's proactive, reactive, which is reactive calls or calls that come to dispatch, are gonna be reflected in this report.
Can you update us whenever with the June stats and stuff? Can you include the page that includes their response time, not yours, but when, you know, how they're picking up the phone? You had pulled it up the last.
That was on their.
This is the same one.
I will do the whole, I'll give you the
I don't
whole.
want 30 seconds.
It's on their website, that's where I found it.
It might be in that, I'll look for it and then if it's just.
But yeah, there's
page
just
there.
one or two pages that are.
Okay,
That was, because again, you know, so we see, and even if that particular, if their timeline does include other agencies, it's obviously gonna impact you, because if everybody's over here helping somebody go whatever, we know Georgetown and Clear Creek County are gonna get the third or fourth person to pick up the phone, maybe.
right, they have a data room where there's a call taker, but sometimes it will roll over to the actual dispatcher if they're busy. It just depends on who's busy at the time and how these calls roll over. 911 will eventually roll over to Denver, they will pick up the call, so the person isn't waiting eternally, they're just. They pick up and they have a live voice, you know, if somebody needs to be doing CPR, Denver then
Yeah.
comes in and tells them. It will have to go back to DEFCON to come to us, because we don't directly communicate with
Do
them.
we have a seat on their board?
We do not.
Do we? Does any county representation from here? have a
From
seat
Clear
on
Creek
the board?
County, my recollection is nobody. That doesn't mean that we can't give them
No,
feedback.
I know that, and I know, you know, you
Yeah.
can always attend, they're open meetings, and not to put the burden on you, but now that there's been a change in that, you know, maybe we should kind of look into that with GEFCON and see if there isn't some more representation than, you know, the typical metro, since they've encompassed all the towns and county out here. Might help us down the line to have a voice at the table.
Just so you know, the commissioners invited them to come speak to the commissioners at a future meeting that they'll be informing you about, so that you can also participate.
It should be coming up soon, so.
Yeah, but they have monthly board meetings, so maybe we need to somehow get some kind of representation, some voice from this area.
Mhm.
Doesn't have to be your voice. Not trying to put another thing on your plate here.
I mean, the data, you know, it's from the same set of data, because I compared it. It's got them at 88.8% of 911 calls answered within 15 seconds, which is below the target. 96, and this is the May data, I'm assuming, yes, I'm sorry, it is. 96.3% of 911 calls answered within 40 seconds. Then 56.8% of their priority 1 and 2 calls processed within 60 seconds, and they have notes, and this is all on the GEFCON website about. They were training a lot of people, and that's why they said that their processing was so low. So,
I think it'd just be nice for us to keep eyes on
Yeah.
that.
well,
you
it's
know,
for,
it's
especially
just-
for you, so that you're not.
Thanks for pulling that up.
Yeah. So that we can see if it's, you know, improves and then, you know, what steps do we take down the line when it comes time to renew the contract with them, you know, type thing.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, do you know I just wanted to ask about a specific situation, you may or may not know about this, but Banky Blackbird. Were you aware about that incident? Okay, I guess he got,
More information, maybe.
well, I guess they got robbed again.
Where was this at? Down here.
Alvarado Road.
Okay.
Okay, so outside of that.
So I will say that the issues the county is having, whether it be Empire Silver Plume with the robberies and, and the thefts have not come back to Georgetown. And so I don't know, I don't want to speak specifically to why. But, I had one of the victims ask me, several days later, I haven't heard from the sheriff's office to get a case report. And I haven't heard from them on where they're at, what they're doing in my case. I said, I don't know, because that's not my case. I said, my case is to get aggressively investigated. And I follow every lead I have, I access resources I have. And I go after these people that I identify. And let them know that when you come to Georgetown to do this, you will be hunted. And so I don't know if that's an attribution factor in why they haven't been back. I'd like to think that is, but I don't know, but we have not been hit again like that. And I do go out at nights, certain nights, and drive around to see what I see, see if there's anything strange going on. I let people see me at nights, so that they know that it's not just an 8 to 5, 9 to 5, whatever, 9 to 7, 8 to 6, I don't know. That I am out at night as well. So I am trying to cover bases like that as well. The LPR system will help tremendously because I don't go out at 3 AM unless there's cause.
Don't say
It's
that.
rolling the dice.
Let them
You
think
know,
that
you
you
never
are.
sleep.
Yeah, it's rolling the dice whether or not I go out at 3 AM and there's anything moving around. So the LPR system will help cover that gap. And by us having that system, and I'll publicize it, so that the community feels better. And others who read about it, they're like, well, if Georgetown has the LPR system, nobody else has the LPR system. We don't go to Georgetown, we go elsewhere. And that will be a huge deterrent as well, not only an investigative tool that's highly effective, but a deterrent. And so that's my goal with this system. And so I'm really looking forward to that.
Like burglarizing a house that doesn't have the alarm compared to the one next door that does.
Yes,
Yep.
Can I ask one more question? This is a data question. The non-emergency calls received by the bot. Are those online reports? Are those text calls?
yeah, so, they do, there's a reporting system
Yeah.
via online, that they can fill out a report and then they send it. And then it goes to the dispatcher dispatches us with an online report. This came in online, this is what's going on. And so it gets dispatched that way, so that, yes, that is the,
And do they screen those for priority or like, how does that get to you?
when it gets to them, it gets to us. However, it doesn't matter how it looks or how it comes in as it comes in, you can't say, oh, I'm gonna flag this as priority so that it gets to the dispatcher faster. You need that kind of response, and you call 911. So anyway,
You have to record, I mean,
I used
yes,
it,
yeah,
that's
that
why I
statement
was
comes
curious.
up that it's a non-emergency, you realize you shouldn't be calling 911, so.
Yeah,
I wonder.
yeah, don't fill out the online report for a heart attack.
Yeah,
It may be a lot.
fair. Okay,
thanks.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, next we have ordinance number 5, series 2024. Public hearing and second reading. So I'm gonna go ahead and open the public hearing. It is 6:25. And this is an ordinance amending the Georgetown Municipal Code to adopt a new chapter 5.17.5 concerning communal outdoor dining areas.
Occasion and our attorney Jerry Dahl has been working on this, so I'll defer to them.
So we had a meeting with Sadie Schultz, and by we, I mean the Business Promotion Commission on Wednesday. I was not here because I was on vacation last week, but I heard the conversation went really well. I spoke with her the week before and had a great conversation with her about what the CODA in Idaho Springs looks like. A lot of the vision that Business Promotion Commission had, they've managed to find ways to get that done, such as including outside vendors in events by using a special event permit in conjunction with CODA, so nonprofits can participate. Pedestrian byways was a really novel idea that I hadn't heard from other people using CODA, where they actually keep the street open and identify the crosswalk as somewhere that you can have an open container in there. They only do that for special events. It's not their regular operating hours, and I'll explain that in just a second. They allow people with open containers to go into merchant spaces that don't have a liquor license via creative use of an encroachment license, and I can't tell you the specifics of that, but it involves the merchant encroaching on the CODA, which allows for open container, and because they're extending their business into it, it creates the interior of their building as part of it, if that makes sense. So
Is it a ratio like 1 to 1, like as much as they come out, you're allowed to go in or anything like that, or is it just?
I would have to clarify.
Oh, that's okay.
So,
It's not that big of a deal.
they also have specific time periods, so in a normal operating business day, Idaho Springs has specified in their CODA that the businesses limit the alcohol leaving their specific areas. So if you've been to Idaho Springs, you know, Tommyknockers has a designated space where people go and can sit outside, but they don't leave that area with the alcohol. And the state doesn't mandate that. The state allows people to walk around anywhere in the CODA, but Idaho Springs does not want them to. And so they are still constricted to that space for regular operating hours, but during events such as 4th of July, they can open up the entire CODA and allow people to go between spaces. So they have a distinction between regular operating CODA hours and event CODA hours, if that makes sense.
Are they actually in the ordinance, or is that more of a policy decision?
So I asked Sadie to send over those documents because it's not in the ordinance.
Okay.
It's part of some other document that they
It's
have.
operational.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she has been out of town. She's gonna send it to me tomorrow, so I will have that for you later. But yeah, it's not in the ordinance. It's part of the application process, and you might know more about that.
Well, and just to jump in on the other point you were making. Sadie, who's with the chamber down there, said that they actually have to go and encourage the people who might be kind of lingering around Tommyknockers. That during these event types, it's okay, you don't have to stand there with your rear on the other side of the fence when you're playing cornhole. That you're, you know, come out, it's okay, it's safe, you know, kind of thing. So, they've, you know, had a very respectful audience for the last couple of years that they've had it. So what we see in operations down there, and sometimes what's actually going on is actually a broader, you know, opportunity. So, yeah, they have thought out and tweaked a lot of their rules to,
They were making announcements during 4th of July too,
yeah,
and then letting people know what the rules were, and there were folks carrying 4 packs of Tommyknocker around to
yeah,
wherever they wanted, and they were encouraged to do that.
yeah.
That was a question I asked too about cans versus cups, and again, it's locally designated, so I think we could be different if we wanted to. But for them, their primary thing, as long as you can identify where the drink comes from, it's fine. So if Tommyknockers is sending cans out, it says Tommyknockers on it.
Within CODA, you can't bring it in from,
So like the vintage moose just used, you know, opaque plastic cups, they didn't say vintage moose on them, you can take those anywhere, what it looked like.
well, that's on their enforcement, that doesn't
Yeah.
stop us from.
I was just,
Yeah.
I sort of.
I heard they ran out of cups actually and had to go
They
get
did.
some from. What else?
Just like.
Oh, you're just gonna see it on walking down the road.
Too many voices.
You have the signs thing about, cause when Rick brought up the posting. About how the magnetic signs that so Idaho Springs has got it, so when the event is, when they're having an event and code is in effect and you can wander outside. what you think are the boundaries, but really aren't, they just have magnetic signs that they put up along the area. So I think it's just a really creative mapping that we need to do.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, she didn't tell me about that.
Yeah, it'll be in that operational policy.
Yeah, yeah, so it sounds like she had a great conversation with the BPC as well, and she's like truly. Really one of the main people that was crafting this, so she knows a lot about it, so if you have any other questions you want me to ask her, I can text her, email her. Or, you know, maybe ask her if she's free, I think she's less free in the evenings than 8 AM in the morning on Wednesday, so. But she was great, so I'm really glad that she came up and took the time to speak with us about it. I also wanted to, Lynette mentioned to me that in the entertainment district, it includes a lot of definitions for various words. We love definitions because it clarifies any interpretation issues. So if that's something we want to add to CODA as well as the entertainment district, or Lynette suggested, maybe we just swap.
Or separate out the ones that apply to the CODA, drag them into this one. I guess that's kind of a question for Jerry. Are there things that, since the ordinance for the entertainment district was a lot more detailed, had a lot more things built in, whereas the CODA had a couple of sections that needed or could be filled in, is that something that we want to do before we approve?
Well, just waiting to hear the whole question. I guess I did.
I
You guys
believe so.
All right.
Either.
Let me turn it. Volume a bit.
Jen's gonna turn up the volume a little, cause you're,
I think it's the volume on my end.
Okay.
That's good.
Better now, isn't it? Yeah, you can do that. Probably, honestly, the code requires fewer terms to be defined than the entertainment district, which is just a more complicated thing. But there's an easy way to do that. There's probably two different choices. You could just take a look at we can look at the entertainment district and just copy and paste over the definitions that we think we need for CODA. And we can do that. Or you can provide in the CODA ordinance that a section on definitions that then says the definitions in section XYZ, which is the entertainment district definitions, are hereby incorporated into, and that way you don't have to repeat them all. Either way, it works. So that's the easiest of our, I mean, that's kind of mechanical. It's the easiest of our issues. One point
right,
I ought to make while I have the chance, and that's for the CODA ordinance, the statute specifically says that the state licensing authority, shall promulgate rules and regulations to govern CODAs. So, and those rules and regulations are by description in the state statute, a whole panoply of issues that would be of concern. For example, supervision and control, security and control plans, removal of alcohol from the CODA areas, insurance requirements. So I suspect it would be worthwhile to have a reference. We already have a reference in this CODA ordinance, you'll notice at the end. It says the town clerk's authorized to promulgate such regulations as necessary to implement the CODA, and that could include the application materials, the things that Kasia was mentioning that in Idaho Springs they don't have in the ordinance, but they clearly have in regulations. So we can rely, I think, fairly heavily on state regulations and on regulations that the town clerk would adopt to support kind of the details of, well, what's the application form look like and what's got to be submitted, and that can be handled in regulation. There's no prohibition of handling it in the ordinance, but if we're to do that, then we'll need to make this ordinance longer and bring it back in 2 weeks, because we wouldn't be able to accomplish that tonight.
right, I figured that. I guess, yeah, I just was trying to think in terms of like, if we as a board were to adopt and approve ordinance number 5, but then did not adopt ordinance number 9, so all of those provisions that are spelled out in 9 wouldn't take effect, and they're not spelled out in 5, so.
Well, honestly, the way to deal with that is, I'd be inclined, you want to see what you're gonna do tonight overall, and so I would have the hearing on the CODA ordinance, and then table it for action while you have the hearing on the ordinance number 9, the entertainment districts. See where you're gonna land on that, because I think they're so interrelated. We could have actually just had a joint hearing on them, but that's what I think I would do, and that way you'll know. And then you can go back to ordinance 5 and know whether you've got an ordinance 9 to refer to or not.
Okay. That makes sense to me. Do we have any public comment on this, either in the house or not on? Okay,
So Jerry, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Because if we proceed and pass this tonight on second hearing, our conversations from our last meeting also included making changes to our park ordinance and probably even looking at the encroachment. So are we, what's your recommendation on those time-wise? Are we gonna, have something, should staff be bringing those to us next time around, so we're ahead of this, or, what's your best advice?
Yeah, well, a couple things. We would need, we can bring the park ordinance or a change to the park ordinance forward. It'd have to be later. It'd be probably pretty tough to stitch it in tonight, although it's possible. If
Why
somebody,
don't we try?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make
Oh, I
these,
see.
those two specifically happen tonight. I'm just wondering what your recommendation is on the time frame, because we know we're gonna be getting this operational policy from Idaho Springs, and the presentation that I did sit through was quite informative, and so I think it's going to be close to where we can feel like, staff is on good ground to move with it. But I don't want us to lose sight of our encroachment and our park district restrictions. So if someone starts to apply for this, things can happen, so.
Well, the calendar controls us, but what we can certainly do, if you adopt these, either one or both of these tonight, then we can immediately start working on whatever changes we need for encroachment and for the park ordinance, and bring an ordinance to you in 2 weeks, which could, wouldn't be effective, obviously, for 2 more weeks unless you could do an emergency. I suspect that even if you do adopt this tonight, there's gonna be some time that the potential applicants are gonna need to pull their applications together, think about whether and how they want to do this anyhow, so it won't be like there'll be people applying tomorrow. I mean, that's the best I can do to address encroachment in parks. If we need to do code changes, it's easy enough to write them up. But they would need to be a new ordinance unless we were able to really figure them out tonight. I'm not thinking that, at least on the parks, it's critical to have them that change tonight if you adopt these 2 ordinances. It's less critical on the parks. On encroachment, we do have an encroachment, permitting process. So I guess I need to ask back at you why these liquor ordinances would need to also, we've got an encroachment process where people can ask to encroach. And so I don't see why a participant in a CODA or in an entertainment district couldn't be, as a part of their application or parallel, to their application for the coda or the entertainment, be asking to encroach.
I just want a legal review of that to make sure that it does encompass that if we pass these tonight. So that if we need to make changes, we're doing it as timely as we can.
Sure.
Rather than all of a sudden we realize we've created a stumbling block and our encroachment ordinance has some barrier that impacts it. I just want staff and legal eyes on it.
All I can do is tell you, I'm happy to do that until, if to look at it to determine if there's a problem and suggest a solution.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay,
I wanted to note that we have an application procedure section that is currently blank.
right,
So,
that's what triggered all of my,
yeah.
what have we left out? And what have we
Understandable.
put into the other that we should be
Right.
putting into this? Yes.
And what we could certainly do for the coda, you know, the coda obviously was sort of a draft, the best we could do, given the time. But what we certainly could do under application procedure would be, because the town clerk has the authority to adopt forms and regulations, what we could easily do, if you were to adopt this code ordinance, would be to say, adopt the ordinance, fill in fill in the application procedure to read as follows, that the applications for participation, approval of, and participation in CODA shall be filed on forms provided by the town clerk and reviewed and approved by the Board of Selectmen. And you know, that's the short form way of filling in that blank. And then you defer really to the application forms and whatnot that we can develop for the town clerk to approve.
And Rick, just to clarify, town staff is all like good with this and like you're good with it, Jeff,
Pretty good with it.
like. You're.
Define good.
Like, I feel like it's manageable.
As far as the applications
Yeah,
and
like if
stuff?
we approve this tonight. I mean,
I
there's still,
mean-
I think Jerry's right, we're not gonna get like an application tomorrow, there's.
We need to set up the application process, so no, I'm not good yet, until we would do something like that.
But you feel like, I mean, that is something you feel okay about executing. So I guess that's a better way to put it.
Yes.
And John feels like you're good with it.
Yeah.
That's-
I mean,
Well, just to make sure town staff is all discussed.
You're still gonna have to review the operational
Right.
procedures that go with this and
Yes.
how it's all laid out. And I would imagine fire authority would have to also, you know.
I mean, and then they would apply for an encroachment, so that would be planning commission.
Maybe.
Or, I mean, that's our regular process, I don't know if it would change,
What, the one we did today, does that one go before
the
planning?
seasonal,
Yeah,
I'd have to look it up, I don't have one seasonal one, I said it, but.
It'd
I
be,
mean, there's been a lot of work on it, so I think it's important that we move forward on it. First, but I also wanna make sure that if we're moving forward, that everyone is okay with what will come next.
I think the wording that Jerry provided as far as, you know, the application and the procedures and everything that falls within staff, would we consider adopting it, but pushing back on the date just to give you a little bit of time, a comfort zone? I mean, not a big date, you know, I don't care, August 1st, whatever, July 15th, I'm just making things up, but or doesn't it matter, Jerry? I mean, do we put staff in a bind if we pass it tonight? And yet we're really not quite ready for somebody to walk in tomorrow, hypothetically. Two people to walk in tomorrow.
Yeah, they have to form their board and stuff though.
No, that's the entertainment district, CODA
That's- yeah.
is separate.
yeah, Mary, that's a fair question, and I think we're going to be all right. We can, if someone walks in tomorrow we can certainly give them, you know, the spreadsheet and that Keisha has done and that information and say, hi, thank you for your interest. Here's this information. You need to start thinking about how you want to design your CODA area. And, you know, you need to gang up with at least one other licensee. So we would want the two of you to talk together. Here's the materials, talk about it. Here's the ordinance. And be advised that we're working on an application form and some regulations, which we'll provide to you within the next 2 weeks to allow you to then fill out the application. And that's going to work just fine. It is not true that someone can come in and demand to be able to file an application when we don't have a form yet. So it's a fair question, Mary, but if we set it up that way, they can be using the same 2 weeks to really think about how they want to do this. And Keisha's spreadsheet is good homework for them. By them, I'm saying the two applicants, and they need to find two of them and work together. While they're doing that for 2 weeks, we can be putting together an application form and some basic restrictions. And we can get a hold of a copy of the state liquor authority's regulations that the state says they have adopted. And we can hand that to them because we'll want to enforce those. And that will buy us all the time we need. I think the ordinance could still take effect on final adoption tonight if you do it, and we're all right.
Can I ask a couple questions? Like, will the board approve these? Will they come before the board, like other liquor license applications?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then will they have to be, like, for other liquor license applications, we have to post the property for so many days? Will there be regulations like that, you think?
For that, I know that it's not, let me say it this way. A CODA isn't a liquor license, right? Because you've already got licensees that have licenses. So it's really just modification of their premises. And that has to be approved. So we would do whatever posting, Jen, and I'm ignorant on what posting we do for a modification of premises, but that's what we'd be looking at. It's not a new license.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right. So further questions? Okay, so do you want to go ahead and vote on this, or do you want to take Jerry's suggestion, table it, go on to the next one, and then come back to this?
Yeah,
Is that,
that makes more sense.
okay,
So
Let's
do you
put that
want
horse before the cart.
so, motion to table.
so moved?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to table this until after we have discussed ordinance number 9. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Awesome. Okay, let's move on to ordinance number 9, series 2024. This is also second reading and public hearing. And this is an ordinance amending the Georgetown Municipal Code to adopt a new chapter 5.17 concerning entertainment districts.
Okay, so is this one continued public hearing then, or how do you want to do it?
No, it's a,
You want to close the other?
yeah, Jen, we tabled that action. So,
Yeah.
oh, I
And
see what your question. If it's tabled, we will reopen the public hearing when it comes off the table.
Okay,
And so now we're gonna open the public hearing on the entertainment ordinance.
okay, it is 6:51. Okay,
And might I make one preliminary note on this ordinance? I think it was raised, I forget by whom last meeting. Does this allow alcohol service in the various zone districts where we want it to happen, right? And from a zoning district standpoint. And I went and looked at the code. You might look at, it looks like maybe the 10th page or so of of this ordinance. It's section 2 of the ordinance. And, you'll notice that we allow indoor eating and drinking establishments, including meal service on an outdoor patio, not more than the size of the indoor eating space. Period. You know, that's what the code says now. And of course, we want to be able to have that in more than that area. And so you see the language that I added. And I put the same language, I think, in the CODA ordinance, whether I did or didn't, doesn't matter, because you only need to do it in one place. And then you've changed that zone district code section to allow this. I just wanted to make sure the board knew we've at least handled that problem.
Okay.
The same is true with respect to open containers, and I'd forgotten this, Mary. Look at the same page and section 3 of the ordinance. I think I solved that problem as well. So that section of the code says no open containers, basically, and then it has an exception. And the exception right now is in public areas were authorized by a liquor or beer license or special event permit. And then I added, including a coda or a common consumption area. Now, I haven't dealt with encroachments, and I promise you I will with that, but if this ordinance gets passed, it will cover both coda and entertainment districts for virtue of the zone district issue, where you can serve alcohol, and the open container matter in parks.
Okay.
So there's that. Other than that, I'm happy to answer questions, and I know the board, this is a more complicated deal, as the board knows. It requires that there be an association of liquor license holders that have to associate together and create a board of directors. You know, it's a more complex thing. And I expect if you adopt it tonight, folks out there might need more than 2 weeks to figure out to get their association together before they're able to apply. So effectively, we're buying ourselves even more time with that. But I'll shut up now and let you ask whatever questions you had about it.
I did have a question on the bottom, very bottom of page 6. It refers to, in the very last line, it refers to the Board of Selectmen. Should that be Board of Selectmen, or should it be Liquor Authority? Liquor License Authority.
I think it's Liquor License Authority, and I apologize, I printed the packet at home.
Yep.
Rather than relying on the packet Winona always prints for me. And I think I'm missing page 6.
Oh, goodness.
Uh,
It's under section 5.17.060.
060, let's see here.
B1.
B1,
Very bottom of 6.
okay, yeah, yeah, I'm missing pages
It's
5
in
and 6.
page.
I'm really
Okay.
sorry.
I think it's actually supposed to be Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
The board, I think the liquor license authority is specific to CODA as far as determining the area versus an entertainment district. It's the board, if that makes sense.
Got it.
Okay,
I just sent it to you, Jerry.
Okay, yeah, let me pull it up on my phone, thanks. While I'm looking at that, what else? Here we go. Good job, Rick. Boy, look at this. You're okay. The boss.
Highlight it.
Are you looking at 060 sub what, Lynette?
B1.
060 B1?
Yes.
B1, okay, at the public hearing, review comes to the Board of Selectmen, and that's hang on. Shall consider reasonable requirements of yeah, that's a decision on the reasonable requirements in the neighborhood, so that's clearly a liquor licensing authority decision. So it should, now obviously our Board of Selectmen sits as the liquor licensing authority, but it should say liquor licensing authority so that you know which hat you're wearing.
Exactly,
Yep, you're right about that.
okay,
So it is, which one is it?
liquor license
Liquor
authority.
licensing authority.
I made that correction.
And then it mentions it again in the paragraph.
Yeah, further down. So
Board
for
of
the
Selectmen,
conclusion of the hearing,
Yep, I can change that. I'm making a note for the eventual motion that says the changes as suggested.
Okay. That was my only question. Do we have anybody for public comments on this one?
You do not.
Okay. Just cover bases.
so I'd like to make a motion. Can I do so?
You certainly may.
We're not here on that. I move to approve ordinance number 9, series 2024 as amended.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 9, series 2024 as amended. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. So now we will return, it is 6:58. We'll return to ordinance number 5.
So that public hearing is closed at 6:58. And
Right.
we're gonna go ahead, okay.
Reopen. And we'll reopen that the ordinance number 5 public hearing. Any further discussion on ordinance number 5?
I can make a comment about the definitions.
Okay,
And while because I'm kind of thinking of how I can construct a motion that will allow you to get this, done today. And obviously we're doing a little more surgery. Surgery is not a favorite word for me right now, I'm afraid. But in any event, if we're going to do definitions, what I can suggest is if you look at ordinance number 9, in a minute, what I'll do is I'll suggest a motion to adopt ordinance number 5 with the following changes, and I'll rattle through it. But the first set of changes would be to copy and insert the following definitions from recently adopted ordinance number 9 with appropriate changes. And I think the definitions that you'll need would be attached, even though the terminology common consumption will change a little. Application, and I'll read them off again. Application fee, authority, meaning the licensing authority, town of Georgetown. Colorado Liquor Code, that's easy. Liquor license premises, liquor license, non-liquor licensed business, although it may well be that won't be relevant in the coda, but it doesn't do any harm to have it there. And because I know there's great interest in, well, how can we involve like a gift shop? And I don't want to go down that whole rabbit hole tonight, other than just say, does no harm to have a definition. Person and people and regulations. And that'll make a pretty good set of definitions. The second thing probably I'll suggest, and I want to sort of rattle through this before you get ready for motion, would be that in what's now blank, it's 5.17.5.20 application procedure. I suggest that get changed to procedure and semicolon regulations. So now we have a home for that section to say that the application procedure shall be as set forth in regulations adopted by the town clerk pursuant to the authority granted by section 2, or section B, because later on in the ordinance, it gives the town clerk that authority. So that's kind of the second change. And the third change under, I would suggest be maybe a new letter C under 5.17.5.030, which is still violations, and that's incorporating the rules and regulations of the state liquor licensing authority, which are gonna apply anyhow. But that way we have the benefit of that part of the statute I read to you, where the state apparently wants to kind of own and operate the main regulations for codas, which is a little different than what the state, the coda statute's really short. And then it says state liquor licensing authority running the show or adopting a bunch of stuff. You go over to the entertainment districts and it really devolves that now down to locals and has them doing regulations, which is why you see that ordinance being much longer. But those would be the three changes that when you're ready for motion, I can kind of articulate, but you may have other questions about this ordinance.
That makes sense to everybody? Any questions? So
That's a lot of changes. I'm going, yeah, good. Fine.
We can always tweak it if we.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right then. Shall I suggest the motion? Proper motion would be to adopt ordinance number 5, series 2024, with the following changes. The addition of a section on definitions to incorporate the definitions set forth in newly adopted 5.17.020 for attached application fee, authority, Colorado Liquor Code, liquor license premises, liquor license, non-liquor license business, person, people, and regulations first. Second, to add to section 5.17.5.20 that the application for a coda shall be on forms prepared by the town clerk pursuant to regulations adopted by the town clerk as authorized by 5.17.5.040. And finally, section 5.17.5.030 should be entitled Violations and Regulations, and a new subsection C shall be added to that section to read, the operation of a coda within the town shall further be subject to the rules and regulations adopted by the state liquor licensing authority per statute.
So moved.
You gotta repeat it.
I'll second it.
Okay, been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 5, series 2024 with the additions and corrections and discussed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And Jen, I promise to send you that motion, Jen, for the minutes.
He's sending you the motion, Jen.
Thank you, sorry, I was still on the days.
Yes, so
Shock.
that public hearing is now closed, 7:05. Yeah. Okay, and we move on to ordinance number 8. Series 2024, this is also a second reading and public hearing. An ordinance amending chapter 17.28 of the Georgetown Municipal Code concerning subdivision plat amendments and revising and relocating the procedure for administrative plat corrections.
Thank you. I'm the staff report for this as well, and I described it in fair detail last meeting. So while it frankly looks longer than it really is, because as I think I described to you, and if you go to the first page of the ordinance, that's the best place to kind of work through it logically. You'll notice that what that does is it gives you the list of the types of subdivisions that we regulate in the town and refers to the code section that has the regulations pertinent to those types. We already have major subdivision and those regs are in 040. We have minor subdivision and those regs are already there in 050. We have subdivision exemptions at 060. We don't have subdivision amendments yet because that's tonight, but we do have administrative plat corrections at 080. Now, a couple of those got renumbered and moved so that the order of the kinds of subdivisions that we have here would be in some kind of reasonable order, but the text is all the same. But what's new, the only thing that's new in this ordinance is number 4, subdivision amendments. You already have the other processes, and while I'm at it, I'll tell you that you recently did do or added to the code subdivision plat corrections. You know, and that's for things where, you know, that it says in an easterly direction and it's actually westerly. And, you know, things like that, or there's numbers are wrong, or the lots are numbered incorrectly, those kinds of things. But you were pretty clear when the board adopted the administrative plat correction, and those corrections happen administratively. That's the staff can do that. But you were pretty clear when you approved that authority did not extend to doing things like, you know, changing a plat, removing a plat note, for example, because that's substantive. You know, plat notes have meaning, they have force, they have effect. They affect people. I see, is Benjamin Chang here? He is. He raises his hand and waves. There he is. Hi, Mr. Chang. That's good to have you here. So those have more substance. The board wanted to be able to have a review process for that. And so that's what this ordinance does. And if you go to the next page of the ordinance.
Before you go, let me go ahead and for the record, open the public hearing. It is 7:08.
Thanks. Sorry, Lynette.
Just to dot the I, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So you go to the next page of the ordinance, and that's the entirety of what would be a subdivision amendment process. Ticking through it really quickly. There's some gatekeepers to this. You can't use a subdivision amendment if it has to pertain to a previously approved subdivision. Obviously, you can't amend something that doesn't exist yet. You can't increase the number of lots. Mary asked me last meeting, what might this be used for? And I mentioned the business about lot lines in the wrong place. And that there are a fair number of those in town. And it's not a bad procedure to kind of move the lot line over, but it's not administrative because it's not. There may well be factors that can only really be capably addressed by this board, not by staff. So it's can increase the number of lots. There's an application form, and I won't say I dumbed this down, but I boiled it down to what you really need for this. And when you look at our major and minor subdivision submission requirements, they're much greater. There's a reason for that. You're creating lots, whether it be major or minor, you're creating lots out of unplatted ground, and that ought to have a fair number of submissions. Here, you've already got a subdivision. You've gone through all that. You're making a correction. So I felt that this list of 5 things was sufficient. Number 5 is kind of a catch-all, but a cover sheet that just like you see on plats, you got to say what the name of the, you know, importantly, because this is going to get recorded and that's going to keep the title nice and clean. So a cover sheet giving this information saying what subdivision is being changed. A separate sheet describing text and graphically what you're doing. We're moving this lot line from this point to that point, or we're deleting plat note 10 from that plat that was previously adopted. A scale and a legend, because you got to be able to measure things. Signature blocks for the right people. If there's a mortgage holder, you want mortgage holder consent. And I put number 5 there because you know, we don't know. There will be situations, for example, where there's some a need to identify a water line easement or a water line or a sewer line or something that you don't want to amend the plat until you really know where that is. And by gosh, they need to go out and do a locate and bring it in. I'm making this up, but any number of things. And I felt that number 5 protects us in that circumstance. And then a written explanation. Why do you want to do this? What's why do you want to do this? The applicant signs the application, town administrator determines it's complete, planning commission reviews it, public meeting, not hearing. They give you a recommendation, and then you have a public hearing, 15 days notice, and you can approve with conditions, or deny. And then if it's approved, it's filed with the clerk and recorder at the applicant's expense. The rest of the ordinance is just me moving things around and adding a little bit of detail for administrative plat corrections on the third page. Because when I looked at what we did on administrative plat corrections, it doesn't really say what kind of document gets approved in administrative plat correction world. So I made a real short paragraph requiring that, kind of picking that up. So I did a little bit more than just inventing subdivision amendments, but this was a good vehicle and a good opportunity for me to just correct that. That's my explanation. Happy to answer questions. I know Mr. Chang is in the audience as a public hearing. I'm sure he is anxious to address you.
Okay. Would you like to make a statement?
Thank you. My name is Benjamin Chen. I'm one of the owners of those 11 unit. The townhouse was beautiful build. It's a beautiful location. The original idea when we bought it, we were being told, and we have 11 unit would be using for Airbnb, will be managed by the hotel. So that was a beautiful thing. It's a good location. That's why. And we think would be a good tax revenue for the city of Georgetown, as well as good revenue for us. But after everything had been done, said and done, what I found out the hotel did not manage. They were being hired another outside management company. And things totally go south. And if it's an income property, and your value is based on how much income that was being produced. But, and I don't mind to show you our income is, sometimes it's 1,000, sometimes it's 600, sometimes even 200. Only produce revenue like $54 for the city of Georgetown. So, and we could not even use for long-term rental. And the HOA is like $395 a month right now, but we got the news for 11 units. For us to renew the insurance, it's over 100,000 a year. That means it's close to 9,000 per building. So it's just like totally upside down, and we wish we could turn it into either long-term rental. And so we do not rely on the management, because the management was eating up all the profit, and I do not mind to show you some of the numbers. And I'm first of all, I'm really appreciated, great, and the city attorney was like meeting with me and understand the situation. It's not just me, and I would say majority of the owners have the same problem, okay? And I found out more, 2 of the units without the restriction, they were doing Airbnb as well. That's what I understand, I could be wrong, okay? But that's what I understand. And if I could pass those to you guys on March. The income is $2,700. The management company charged $2,400. My net income is $244. They charge each unit $200 per month. Just take out the garbage once a week. So that is $1,900 just for the management, take out the garbage. And I do not mind the pesto, so you guys can take a look at the number, it's totally upside down. And April, the income is 1,100. The management charge of 905, my income is 260.
Oh, thank you.
May, the income is 1,700. The expense is 1,036. My income is 685. They only produce $59 tax revenue for the Georgetown. But if I could use that for long-term rental, or even if I could live in there by myself, I could get a good enjoyment out of it. But right now, if I put my unit on the market, nobody would buy it. So that is not a good thing for the city, it's not a good thing for individual as well. So far, and I have 3 to 5 units is commit, and I have been talking to, they want to remove the restriction, so they could back to the normal use.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Chang?
We will be misled a little bit by the builder,
Okay,
okay?
That's just amazing.
Well,
That the builder misled you, I always thought he was so honest.
Well, he had a good idea, and we thought that's a good idea, I mean. When I first looked at the location, I fell in love. Unfortunately, that love become a nightmare.
it did not work out.
No, it did not work out.
Okay, I appreciate you bringing this to our attention.
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak up.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Any other public comments? Okay. Any questions about the ordinance itself from the board?
It's fascinating.
Anyone?
Obviously, if you don't, I'm sorry that I'm not in the room and sometimes I interrupt and didn't mean to. If that's okay. And obviously, if this ordinance is then on the books, what it does is creates a process. And Mr. Chang and others that are owners there will need to apply. It may well be, I know he's talking to the other owners, it may well be that other owners will join in a joint application. Each one of those lots is subject to that plat restriction that was invented, as the board well knows, to satisfy the 50% commercial residential split, which we learned later is now not needed, and I'm confident about that. So that does, obviously tonight, Mr. Chang approving this doesn't mean the plat note goes away. It means there's now a pathway to eliminate that plat note via an application, which I expect will get received, and it may be in everyone's interest if more applications are submitted at the same time. We can just do this fewer trips, but that's up to the individual property owners out there of those various units. But I'm pleased that at least there will be a forum for them to address their concern. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Jerry.
Yep.
Okay. So. If there are no questions, I think there's probably. Is there a suggestion motion?
Yeah, I moved to,
Okay.
I moved to approve ordinance number 8, series 2024 on second reading.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 8, series 2024 on second reading. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
May I have a question? How do I go on to follow up in getting applications, stuff like that?
You're gonna contact town staff.
We'll help you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
yep. Okay. Next, we've got an amendment, for Jalisco's construction agreement.
the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we had a pre-con meeting with Velasco, CDOT and town staff. And it came to our attention in the meeting that in section 10 of the agreement, the construction agreement, which would be on page 4, where it says application for progress payment, the amount to be withhold in the contract says 10%. At the very bottom of that, you'll see 10% of payments, last line of section 10. It came to our attention that the state requirement is actually 5%. And, you know, that's a requirement that, it's an oversight, we didn't catch it, neither did CDOT, who we submit the documents to, and they have to read it and approve it. Velasco brought it to our attention, CDOT agreed, they're correct, and so they've asked us now to just amend the contract with 5%, and then we can, have Lynette initial it, or whoever assigned it.
It was you.
It was me, I can initial it, say, and then I will put the minutes of the approved motion with that, and that will be sufficient. So that's what we got. So it's pretty simple.
That makes sense?
Makes sense to me.
Okay,
I hope to approve the amendment in section 10 of the TOG construction agreement, town of Georgetown.
Yeah.
I didn't know something that baffled me.
Yeah.
Dang. With Jalisco International to be 5% payment withholding.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the amendments to the Jalisco International construction agreement. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
I wanted a children party.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so proud at this point, I'm just like.
So, item number 6 was deleted. So, next we've got staff items. We'll start off with pages updates.
Okay, so I was gone last week, so not a lot of updates for you, but I did just wanna let you know that. The DRC is planning on having an expert on tax credits for historic preservation come and speak at the August 22nd meeting. So if, you know, there'll be a flyer for that, but if you know anyone that has a historic home that they wanna do renovations on, then they can get tax credits for that, so they can come talk to us and learn about that. And that's it.
I had something to add, I don't know if you know this or not, but you know those, you know Herman's Gulch?
Yeah.
And how it's National Forest Service, they're going to be recalling all those leases. Shortly, apparently, and this isn't just Herman's Gulch, this is countrywide.
Right.
I don't know if anybody's ever
You
heard
mean
of this.
Forest Service lease?
Right.
Yeah. They've been undergoing a lot of changes to the forest lease program.
I heard that they were going to abolish the program and they were,
They've been phasing it out for years.
oh, okay.
When I first started with the county, there were a lot more, and they've been dwindling it and
Right.
restricting it, so I, you know, haven't been
It's not new
really.
news, it's not nothing.
So.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Affordable housing project.
That's what I was thinking.
Not anymore. They used, well, they were started way back in like the 30s, 40s for, you know, the vacation cabins, and that was also back before.
You know what they were for? To encourage people to go skiing.
Well, okay,
The
sure,
ski areas just
sure.
opened up.
but none of them had like,
Septic systems.
on-site sanitation
So they
systems.
were second.
And right, and so you hauled up your water and you hauled everything back, theoretically, if everything worked well. And so back in like the 90s, they were all putting in at least holding tanks. But they were also not, if the lease came up for renewal, they wouldn't renew it. Or if the last of a family died off and the lease was now, you know, not held by anyone, they wouldn't offer it to somebody else. So they've been phasing that out for quite a while.
So what are they gonna put it up on the market?
Doubt it.
The
Oh,
problem-
they're gonna hold it is
No.
protected.
So those old cabins will probably be demolished and
Right,
everything.
the forest land stays within the forest area.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure,
so
it
it's
was
not-
just like a little postage
Right.
stamp of property with a cabin sitting on it. That had no running water and,
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
so. Okay,
That was called a tangent.
yes,
So it's pre-glamping.
okay, yeah.
It was 105 in California, so be grateful for the weather here, okay?
I always am, yeah. All right, right.
Did you have something?
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to mention real quick that the BPC is having a business mixer
Okay,
tomorrow at the old school from 4 to 7. Just wanna go.
Thank you.
okay,
And I just have a few updates, just to give you a sense. Things change so fast around here from week to week. And when I send my admin report, there's just a lot more stuff happening. So I'm just gonna go through a couple things. Just for your knowledge, in case residents ask me what's going on, you'll be prepared. The sheriff's driveway on Sixth Street, Sixth and Argentine-ish kind of area, that's been collapsing and we will be fixing that soon. So that's just next week, I believe, is the plan. Graffiti is a problem and we're noticing it around town and we're trying to correct it. We have been removing it, but it's been coming right back up. So we think it's probably some kids in the neighborhood doing it. Especially at the basketball court, on the backboard, you'll see some stuff and that's probably Dwayne since he skateboards.
Or don't take out. I held the ladder.
The big dirt pile that came out of Strauss, that's been on Third Street, the little parking lot, that was removed, so it's gonna be back in parking lot. The material list for Spring Street Bridge, is ongoing and we're hopefully have the materials next week to start fixing the Spring Street pedestrian bridge. There's a light on Sixth Street that was swapped out with another light in another area so that we can all match. However, that light is not working. They hope to have it back on an XL fixed with us. So that should be fixed this week. We thought it was fixed. I mean, this has been an ongoing thing for 6 to 8 months. Okay, so it's not, we've been working with this, but they finally came out, swapped it, but there's still something not right. ESI, they have been bringing equipment in. They're planning to start tomorrow. That will be Main Street between 14th and Clear Creek Drive, where it turns out. So that will start tomorrow. Skyline, Culver will be cleaned out. I want to say this week. They're gonna be looking at it to try to clean that out. And that's just runoff. When it gets clogged, then it creates more gravel on the road. Makes it a little bit more slippery-ish to get up and down. So that will be fixed to keep the runoff where it should be going. Message sign will be up for the triple bypass. The staff in discussion wants to keep it up for just letting people coming into town know that the businesses will be open since it's gonna be a construction site all on Argentine, and the staff said that they think that it's up to you guys if you don't like that, but the staff prefers that it is up, giving an indication that the businesses down by the lake will be open. So if you have any issues with that, please let me know. Okay. There's more speed signs up on Main Street. You know that's been an issue. We've added more 15 miles per hour signs. Yes.
7th and Brown Hill. Right, where that stop sign used to be, can we put that back? I mean, I almost got sideswiped a couple of times because people just blow right through it.
Because you can now.
Yeah, I have no issue with that. I mean, I don't see a whole lot of problem with it, but
It might just be me.
it could be.
I think
Probably is.
I think everyone's I'm more used to it now, but I have. Yeah, I get it. I think that locals it's muscle memory for us.
No kidding. Yeah,
Tourists don't.
Oh, yeah, you think you're gonna get rear-ended.
well, and if I'm at 7th and I'm taking a right, I am craning my neck to make sure that I don't get, T-boned.
But remember, we tasked staff to look at one way for Sixth Street. So
maybe,
how many times, like, are we gonna, the stop sign came down, and now we've got the traffic calming devices, which
Yeah.
are a pain in the butt, but they calm you, I mean,
I've never felt calm.
And then are we gonna put the stop sign back up temporarily, then all of a sudden we might change to 6th Street, and then we might be changing this, so,
Gotcha.
We'll continue to monitor it.
so
I'm more
Don't roll
comfortable.
that way.
I do, I mean, no, I almost hit somebody the other day, cause I weirdly enough didn't stop. And they pulled out right in front of me, and I was like, oh, that's bad. So I get it, but I think we just have, everyone's just gotta go really slow.
Yeah.
through there.
yeah,
It's a bad sidewalk.
It is,
You know?
it's just kind of a.
No,
tricky-
there's bad sightlines all over town, they're coming off of Rose, trying to turn left onto 15th, you cannot see it all
Yeah.
at that, like, you're like. There's like a huge bush, and it's like, oh god, oh god, oh god, and so.
Well, so if that bush is on right of way, that can be easily trimmed too.
It's town property, I'm probably just gonna go out and do it.
So if it's town property, then we have a crew that
Yes,
can
we do.
easily trim that.
yeah.
I would like to say that the coming devices on Rose Street that are not there are actually there because all the kids bike down the middle of the road. So I kind of yelled at my kid about that, but then it was kind of cool because nobody honked and nobody ran them over. They just drove slowly behind them.
They do.
So I just don't know how much longer I'll have that in place.
Yeah, go to college Sunday.
Yeah.
So I'll just go through a couple others that just, they're ongoing. 11th in Maine, that's one where we were gonna do, we're having Velocity come in and change out that service line. However, it became a lot more, once we dug in and found it, it's a lot more issues there. It's 3 service lines going into one. We have to have a manhole there, and the main needs to be extended about 30 feet down so that we can have another manhole near 10th Street. So that is an amendment to that agreement that we're doing. So that's gonna take several weeks now. It was supposed to be simple. Nothing's ever simple in Georgetown when you dig into the ground. There's a lot of things we discovered. The motor grader will most likely be back next week is what we're hoping. So that is exciting and I can't wait. Our Argentine North started July 8th and will go to October 31st. And so yes, we're waiting on Excel to still move the lines, the power lines, and to remove the poles. However, Jalisco is still gonna plan to start the project, and they're just gonna start on the other side while they have all the space and be able to do that. So, 4th of July was amazing. Kudos to staff. You guys worked really hard, especially Jess. I mean, it worked really well, and Amanda normally is part of it. But Amanda had other things, but it really was, it's my favorite day of the year. I just love it, seeing the flags up and the weather was beautiful. Strauss Park, is showcased and it was so fun. People were so excited. We didn't have hardly anything going on. I mean, the only issues we're gonna try to address really is skateboarders in the parade near horses. So that's a simple fix, but the parade was great, just a lot of excitement. Let me see what else.
I gotta tell you that, I didn't have a misspent youth, but hearing those sirens, it just is chilling to me. I mean, I literally, every time you like leaned on that siren, I was just like, yeah.
I would say the last thing is, I'm most likely gonna have a meeting this week or next week with Excel where we can start the discussion, a pre-meeting with just me and Brian most likely. Trying to help answer some questions before we have a bigger meeting to discuss the second watershed protection permit, dealing with the bypass around the 4-bay.
Right.
So that'll be a large, and then they're just gonna bypass so that they can start sampling what's in the sediment, 10 to 15 feet. And then determine, what we're gonna do, even if I have to have track hose or something there, it won't get into our system. So that's coming, and I'll give you updates when I get that, but that's a snapshot.
Okay. Any questions for Rick?
you reminded me about the sign, the multivariable sign about Argentine North. Jess is working on like permanent sign, not permanent, but temporary signage that looks nice. For Argentine North projects that tells the public like what's going on with it, so. Looks good, just so you know, that's a thing that's happening.
Cool. I have two more, I just realized I wrote it down, I forgot to tell you. We did have a meeting, our first meeting about the Administrative Policy Review Committee. And so, that was more of an introductive, and, we were tasked to kind of go get some questions, we're working on that. And, I think we're gonna just have some discussions, but, there's nothing to report at this point. And then the second one, I guess I'm gonna ask Jerry, because I was tasked and I figured you would probably be better to answer this one, but when John was made acting marshal, can you comment on that, whether or not we should change that to accommodate his new title or so forth?
Make it form.
No, I don't think it's necessary to take any further action than the board already did in adopting the ordinance that said there's hereby created the position, we switched out the position from marshal to police chief. And henceforth, from the effective date of that ordinance, that position is police chief. So therefore, John is acting police chief, and I see no need for the board to take any further action to confirm that. It already has acted. So I think you're done, you're good.
Okay,
That's fine, we just didn't want it to miss.
Yeah.
And make sure that,
okay.
really clear.
That's all I have.
You didn't put in the new police chief needs to wear a war bottom, you didn't put that in there?
Got it already.
No, there's no war bottom.
Well, it's on under staff items, so, as a separate, so.
Yeah. So I guess there's one last thing, there was an ordinance passed a while back that describes that there's a temporary stage one part, we follow the county. When the sheriff indicates a fire ban in the county, and ours. Basically says if the town administrator or the police chief wants to go against it or for it, then we would make we'd make a decision, and John has decided to go along with that. So we're going along with the fire ban of the county. So that's what this is about.
Dan,
Stage
stage,
one.
and is that the lowest or is that,
Yeah, you can't shoot.
okay,
You can have fire grills or charcoal grills, gas grills at your residence. I put out a notice. Because so many people are asking about grills and stuff, but and that's part of the exemption of the county. However, I included portable fireplaces, which was not under the county fire ban, but
To permit those?
to permit them if it's in the manufactured container, just like a gas grill, basically.
Yeah.
And it's around the residence, and they had, proper tools to monitor, they sat there, they monitored it and didn't walk away. And that's the same for grills too, as well, but that was the only difference, because it was 4th of July and people were going to be doing this stuff with parties and family and stuff that. Now, I went ahead and did that, I felt the conditions were, as such that we could handle that, so. And there were no issues.
Okay. All right, so any further questions, anything? Board wants to add? Okay, I think we've got the motion.
I'm going to go into executive session with the town attorney, town administrator, and appropriate staff under CRS 24-6-4024F for a personal matter. Review applications for filling town police chief vacancy. I further move to reconvene open meeting at the conclusion of the executive session for the purpose of taking any action deemed necessary.
this is a good time to go to the back.
We need a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right.
Everybody stay seated until Rob leaves the room.
Bye, Gary.
No, we got.